Okay, why? My wife comes and send a message. Your face is not free. Hello? What's happened?
It's your child who will be a quiet say what? I dare say,
besides, friend of friend, I'm so years. No, I'm not testing messages here. And our officer, so I'm trying to tell you, man. She says, I
mean, so we a guy, Manu, and may young who could cry. And also wants a family drilling company limited for Kana.
What's it then? Family Dwelling Company Limited.
Ye two borehole, biofuel, biogas, swimming pool, plumbing works in Naso, ye be Friday 0240 333 111 and that says 0244 144 822.
Me and Pa and we want swimming pool me see. Me want to will be family dwelling now. Family dwelling.
What fast is your last shit?
Me out with that shit.
So good evening and welcome to your most authoritative evening political show, Hot News. We are coming to you from our studios in Abelenque 48, Swanika Street here in Accra. We're live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. We're also live on YouTube at Pan-African Television as well as 48 African countries. My name is Justice Appiah, but you can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments and contributions on our WhatsApp/text line. We'll make a time and read all those out for you. Can as well share our Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. You can leave your suggestions, questions and whatnot on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram and on Twitter at Pan-African Television. I'll make a time on the show to read all those messages, questions and all of that out for you. But tonight on Hot News, we are discussing the controversial E-levy. Finally, it has been passed, but a lot of issues are coming up from the passage of the E-levy. At a point, the minority in Parliament walked out of Parliament in order not to be part of the process. Why did they walk out? They will be telling us tonight on the program. But after the passage of the E-levy, both the minority and majority have held separate press conferences. The minority has been talking about how unlawful it was for them to pass the E-levy because a quorum to vote on the floor of Parliament wasn't formed at the time that the majority, the said majority in Parliament, had to pass the E-levy. They did not have up to 138 members of Parliament, according to the minority. Honorable Justice Appiah wasn't in Parliament. Also, they had a hint that a member of Parliament from the side of the majority who is seriously ill and was transported in ambulance to the premises of Parliament was not in the chamber at the time. And so if you count the members of Parliament, at the time, they were up to 136. Don't forget that recently, Justice Abdullahi went to the Supreme Court for interpretation of some articles in the Constitution which borders on forming a quorum and who can't vote on the floor of Parliament in terms of the Speaker of Parliament and his deputies. The Supreme Court ruled that forming a quorum to commence business is different from forming a quorum to vote on the floor of Parliament, and that in order to vote on the floor of Parliament, you need half of the members of Parliament. The question is, was that followed today in Parliament? Now, the minority in Parliament have served a notice that they are going to court. I've seen, of course, a rate of sermons. They're already in court challenging the decision by the majority in Parliament to approve the E-levy. I'll be playing some, videos from their press conferences. But first and foremost, let's listen to what the minority in Parliament has been saying over the passage or approval of the E-levy. We'll be right back.
I'm using 137 because conspicuously, everybody in the world and Ghana know the Honorable Justice Appiah was not present, and therefore you had 137. Additionally, we knew that there was an ambulance within the presence of Parliament, but the person who is purported to have been in the ambulance was not present in the chamber for purpose of exercising a vote. Therefore, every decision that they took with 136 flies as a sin against the ruling of the Supreme Court. And for emphasis, I'm going to read page 12 of the Supreme Court ruling, when it said, there is a second quorum provision found in Article 1041. This provision applies specifically and exclusively to voting to determine a matter in Parliament. Article 1041 provides as follows. I'm quoting the ruling. Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of majority of members present and voting with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. During second reading, you did not have half of members of Parliament present. During the constitution stage, you did not have half of members of Parliament present. Per the Supreme Court ruling. And during the third reading, you did not have. During third reading, you did not have half of the members of Parliament, more than half of the members of Parliament present and voting. Therefore, those of you who are celebrating with them that E-levy has been passed and accordingly passed, your excitement will be short-lived. Immediately after this press briefing, we intend to file to question the legitimacy of the decision of less than one half of members of Parliament taking a decision to approve E-levy at second reading following our walkout, and at third reading, which is required. For those of you who want to appreciate it, Article 104 provides expressly, except otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting with at least half of the members in Parliament present. Was half of the members of Parliament present when they took it through third reading? Our Constitution, the famous, provided an elaborate roadmap for the constitution of bills. It's been advertised or taken through agency. It's been accompanied by an explanatory memorandum, but it being subjected to a debate on its principles. And for the record, the minority at committee did not support E-levy. It took the chairman of the committee a casting vote for us to lose to that casting vote at the level of committee. We stand same at the same level. So those of you who want to go further, even to the Supreme Court ruling, and still have some lingering doubts, even as we prepare to challenge the matter in the Supreme Court, a judicial determination has been made on Article 104 of the Constitution, clear cut. Anything to the contrary is a sin to Article 104, the 1992 Constitution, and the ruling of the Supreme Court of Ghana. Remember, when they walked out on a procedural motion of 137, claiming a minister had been asked to stay out from the voice vote, or claiming the Honorable Asidi Nketia was present somewhere, their intention was what we have also now intended. Their intention was that they said that we were 137. They are left.
That leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, right, he thinks that the decision by the majority to pass the position of the Supreme Court, recently and all of that. But the majority in Parliament has also spoken, and they have been telling Ghanaians what the E-levy seeks to do and how Ghanaians are likely to benefit from the approval of the E-levy. Let's listen to the majority leader, Honorable Sechi Mensah Bonsu. Let's listen to him. We'll be right back.
Matters that should really confront us as members of parliament is what we are going to apply the monies on. The bill provides that they are going to apply it to the development of physical infrastructure. That's number one. And we do know that almost every week, in particular on Fridays, questions are filed relating to the development of roads in the various constituencies. Questions are filed relating to the construction of boreholes, the delivery of potable water, extension of electricity to places hitherto unserved, construction of health facilities. And so we are not in disagreement. I'm not sure that any MP would disagree that we should apply this money, the monies that would ensue from the E-levy, to the construction of physical infrastructure, also digital infrastructure, and tackling high unemployment in the country. The bill provides that the monies will be used to grow entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs. I'm not sure that anybody in Parliament will be against this. And we are escalating our debt burden, going out to borrow. If we have to do the revenue mobilization inside the country, what it means is that we will curtail the rate of borrowing and thereby curtail the increasing debt stock. Who in Ghana, which MP would say that he doesn't like this? So colleagues, I believe we are adding them on these matters. Now, what Parliament ought to be looking at is reportage. How much is coming? How are we applying those revenues? And I think that Parliament's oversight responsibility should come into play, which is why what we're discussing, which were put together by one of our colleagues on the other side, in the form of amendment. He left the chamber not to move the amendment. But because we had bought into the spirit, even in his absence, we brought it back to the front burner and moved that amendment relating to Parliament's oversight responsibility. But the minority are making a fanfare of the fact that we are saying that because of the application of the E-levy is an all-in-all facility, it's going to operate like Akubam, Akubam. The funny thing of it is that when the ranking member was reciting this poem, when he said Akubam, Utiya Akubam, instead of touching his head, he touched his ass. That's on the funny side. But why are they saying that? You see, the E-levy, we are not creating a fund for the E-levy, like the petroleum revenue fund. Now, the revenues that would ensue from the taxes will be commingled with other revenue sources into the consolidated fund. So, bits and pieces of it will go into health, bits and pieces of it will come to Parliament, bits and pieces of it will go to education, bits and pieces of it will go to roads. But for roads, we are insisting that perhaps when we come to it, we may even demand of the finance minister to declare to us that maybe about 20% of it should be dedicated to road construction. So, colleagues, if the money, the revenues are going to be commingled with others into the consolidated fund, and you need money for the construction of maybe a health facility, some amount is given to you. It contains some aspects of the E-levy taxes. we need to construct an educational facility. The money that is given to you contains some bits and pieces from this. One would be right in saying that, yes, it's going to provide some space for the construction of physical development.
Right, that was the Majority Leader, Honorable Sechi Mensah-Bonsu, addressing the media right after the passage or approval of the the controversial E-levy. When he was asked on the matter of, whether or not they had the numbers to form a quorum, he told the media that when it comes to quorum, there wasn't any issues with that. He doesn't think that there was an issue with forming a quorum, and that they had the numbers to form a quorum. Is that in line with the decision by the Supreme Court in the issue of review, actually sent to the Supreme Court by, one private lawyer and all of that. Also, I've been joined in the studio by Member of Parliament for Sagnarigu constituency, Honorable Alhaji Appiah Hussaini. People are saying that, this whole issue of the passage or approval of E-levy is one that was pulled on both the minority and even the Speaker of Parliament, because it looked as if they didn't see this coming. They were not really ready for this, and nobody told them about the plans of the majority as to what they intended to do as at today. But we have Honorable Appiah Hussaini in the studio, who will be giving us a blow-by-blow account of what transpired in Parliament today and what informed their decision to walk out. Honorable, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Justice.
It's been a while.
Yeah, sorry, I have some small problem with my throat because I've been speaking a lot.
Very well.
So
Very
I'm
well.
sure that, it's always a pleasure to be on Pan-Africa TV.
Right.
The TV of the moment. And
Very well.
let me commend you guys for a very good job you have been
Thank
doing
you.
in the service of Mother Ghana. And to say that it's always a pleasure to be here.
We are also
Let me take
grateful
the
for your
opportunity
presence.
to greet the Burkina people of the Sagnarigu constituency.
Right.
Yeah.
Honorable, E-levy, approved or not?
Not.
What makes you think that it has been approved?
Clearly, Justice. First and foremost, give me the opportunity to congratulate the Black Stars.
Right.
For the momentous job they've done for this country. Everything in this country is down. Justice, nothing is working in this country.
I see.
It is only the Black Stars who are putting smiles on the faces of Ghanaians. Ghanaians are undergoing excruciatingly difficult moments in their lives.
I see.
Everything is in disarray. But it takes the Black Stars to bring smiles on the faces of Ghanaians.
Right.
So, Justice, we ought to salute the Black Stars, the players.
Very well.
The coach, or the coach and his members in the technical team. The Black Stars management team.
Right.
I know that you have a number of them. The GFA chairman,
Very well.
Keto Krepu. I'm sure a lot of criticisms were made against him when we came back from the AFCON.
That's true.
I think that today he's exonerated himself.
Very well.
Together with the likes of Dr. Randy Abbey and others. I want to salute all of them. The Minister for
Youth and
Sports, Honorable Yusuf.
Right.
I think he's also played his part in ensuring that we got this. I want to salute
Was he in
everybody.
Parliament today?
No, I think he's been in. To the best of my knowledge, I didn't even see him in Parliament. But people said he was there.
I see.
I really didn't cite him.
What makes the minority think that the E-levy has not been passed?
Yes. Justice, we are in a law and order country.
I see.
We are bound by the Constitution of the Republic, 1992 Constitution, which regulates the behavior and conduct of all, not just all organs, but everybody in this country. And so, for every issue, there are important underpinning regulations that guide the behavior and conduct of operators. Justice, and Allah Almighty never makes a mistake. That is why I think just about 2 weeks ago, or entering the 3rd week now, the Supreme Court issued a ruling.
Very well.
I'm sure, which attracted a lot of things on the status of the first deputy speaker, second deputy speaker, and any other member elected on the House, and whether or not they had the right to vote.
Right.
I'm sure you are aware of the Justice Appiah ruling, which a copy of which I have here.
Very well.
If you perish, I may allow you to read something.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, Justice, and it indicates in no uncertain terms clearly that for the House to take that decision, a decision of the magnitude such as we have for a bill, it must have a quorum of at least half of the members of Parliament present and voting.
Very well.
And Justice, if you crave your indulgence, I can let it. This is from the Supreme Court's own ruling.
Very well.
Justice, if you can read from here to here.
Right. So let me read. It says, the first issue presented for judicial determination concerns quorum. There are 2 separate quorum provisions that govern the business of the House. The general quorum provision is found in Article 102 of the 1992 Constitution. A quorum in Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all members of Parliament. In other words, for the House to commence and proceed with the ordinary business of the day, there must be in attendance at least 1/3 of all members of Parliament, apart from the person presiding. There is a second quorum provision found in Article 1041. This provision applies specifically and exclusively to voting to determine a matter in Parliament. Article 1041 provides as follows: except as otherwise provided in the Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present.
So Justice, this is abundantly clear. This is the ruling of the Supreme Court that I said occurred just about 2 weeks, or just over 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
Indicating. Justice, before I go into the circumstances of this half, let me, because many Ghanaians will be asking questions as to why we in the NDC staged a walkout.
A walkout, yes.
Justice, I'm sure many people who have followed us in this E-levy debate,
yes,
we know that this is a journey that started as far back as November last year.
That's very true.
When the finance minister presented the thing, and the minority has shown unbending commitment and have an unbroken resolve to fight this E-levy theft. We call it Momo theft, because they are stealing money from us. They're supposed to be stealing money from the pockets of the individuals.
Right.
Have resolutely fought this matter all away and have at no point in time ever pondered to compromise on this matter. Now, Justice, you will also be aware, and that's why from November to March, we are getting to the end of March, that fight has been on, and the government could not get this thing passed.
Right.
Now, Justice, you will recall that there have been a number of measures, including political chicanery, and then resort to the courts by the government to whittle down the numbers of the members of the NDC in order to facilitate the passage of the E-levy.
You're talking about the Asinov Member of Parliament.
Yes, I will come to the Asinov. That's the latest. That is what they have done throughout. You know, Jomoro is there.
Yeah.
They have tried Asin. They are even trying Jacob Abdullahi.
Who's
Idrisu
Abdullahi?
Savlugu,
yeah. Right.
Okay. Even including fabricating charges against him.
Right.
All those things. That's why I said they have used a variety of measures to attempt to whittle down the numbers of the NDC in Parliament so as they could just get E-levy this impasse. So, Justice, when we went this morning, our member for Asin North could not join us.
Okay. What happened?
He was in the courts.
Okay.
As usual, the harassment, intimidation, and the attempt to petrify him into inaction, using the process of courts to get it. And from the time of the Cape Coast ruling, Justice, I'm sure you see that this gentleman has never had peace.
I doubt if he even comes to Parliament.
Everything possible has been done. To the point that today they brandish the threat of an attempt that if he showed up, he could be even cited for criminal contempt.
I see.
So Justice, while he spent the greater part of the day while we were in Parliament trying to deliberate, we were dealing with 136 members of the NDC.
Okay.
Manosi, because he was in court. And this matter was still hanging over his neck.
Reasons why you walked out?
So Justice, first with this, and in a situation where the government were prepared to go to any extent, I'm sure you have heard the story, you even mentioned it.
Yes.
That this is my very good friend. I feel very sad to talk about him in that state. He's a very good colleague of mine, very good friend of mine. Honorable Kojokum. The Minister for Chief Justice. Is that
story true? Is it true that he was brought to Parliament?
Yes.
Ambulance?
Wait, that is a story.
Did you see that?
My brother, today, I personally didn't say, but a lot of the colleagues and others who were around spotted it. And some even said that he was carried in a wheelchair.
I see.
I mean, why would you subject this gentleman to this undignified treatment? Somebody who is battling for his health.
Right.
Kwame, Justice. So let me not go into that one. But you see the extent to which one. So if you do the mathematics and others, the perception was that minus Honorable Adjuasafu.
Yeah.
Who clearly, and I salute her for her dedication to doing what is right and proper that she thinks she is. Justice, you would see that obviously the 137 that they marshaled versus the 136 that we had. If you put the two together, you would have seen where the odds would have gone.
Right.
So in the face of that, Justice, politically you should be shrewd enough to do some calculations. Unfortunately enough, the NDC team is imbued with a lot of legal expertise. And so our legal people putting their heads together with leadership, advise that, look, on the strength of this, Madam Adjuasafu is clear to the whole world. Honorable Adjuasafu has not come to Parliament.
Yeah.
So clearly, the MPP, together with the independent member of Parliament put together, cannot marshal the requisite constitutional quorum required. And you just read the quorum.
Right.
Half of 275 is what?
Would have to
it's
be
137.5. You don't have a 0.5 of a human being.
So
they make it 138.
Yeah.
So 138 is the accepted figure.
Yes.
So minus Honorable Adjuasafu, they don't have 138 votes. So the calculation in this particular instance where they have managed to harangue our member of Asin North out of the distance to prevent him from coming to join us to undertake the vote was with this option of fine. Then in that case, why don't you look at this other option of staging a walkout? You are not part of the quorum that they will constitute to take that decision. And whatever numbers they are able to put together, that number can never be 138 because Honorable Adjuasafu is not present.
Do you need half of Parliament as ruled by the Supreme Court to make a decision under a certificate of urgency?
Yes, they say, look, that's why they made the issues of voting. I'm sure you just read. There is a second quorum provision found in Article 104. This provision applies specifically and exclusively to voting to determine a matter in Parliament. It applies to voting to determine a matter in Parliament.
Exactly.
The E-levy is a matter that is pending in Parliament.
That's true.
So it fits squarely into this matter that the Supreme Court ruled here. And that is the quorum they said requires at least half of the members of the present and voting. So that is the 138. So just by all accounts, they have not met the constitutional threshold of securing the 138 to do that business. So as I speak to you now, Justice, our legal team and others, with the minority leader Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Honorable Ayaraga, and Honorable Ablaka as plaintiffs, have already finished the decision, and tomorrow morning I can assure you they will be at the Supreme Court to file this matter before the court to ask for the determination. Unfortunately enough, we are not asking for reinvention of the wheel. It is a ruling given by the Supreme Court itself, in which it made clear, and it was a Supreme Court matter that the MPP side were gloating over. Okay? as something they thought it was favorable because it said the first deputy speaker can be allowed to vote, even when he's presiding. Okay, so it also made this ruling, which I just asked you to read.
Right.
So clearly, justice is a matter that we will put squarely before the court itself tomorrow. And so that tells you that this E-levy is by no means over. On the contrary, it is going to set the stage for as we intend to invoke the jurisdiction of the court to look into the matter and bring the matter back to Parliament. So it is not in any way, in our estimation, a done deal. Far from it.
Did the minority know that the issue of E-levy was coming up in Parliament?
Justice, you see, when they said surprise, you see, it is not as if our side was completely oblivious and taken totally unawares.
Okay.
Because in politics, you have to find a way of gauging your opponent and do your own intelligence to inform you what your opponent is planning.
Right.
And I can tell you without any doubt that, justice, that is why all the 137 members of the NDC were present, except for, like I said, what they tried to do with Asinov, member of Parliament, who had to be hauled to court.
Very well.
They had to force and take him to court. You know, fearing that they will cite him for contempt and find a way, because they've been looking for even ways to jail him. Okay, so you see clearly that we were not oblivious of the fact that they will intend. But the issue of surprise, as even Mr. Speaker related, was that the business statement of the House was read to us. Every week, Justice, the business that the House will do will be read by the majority leader,
right,
or the deputy or whoever is designated in his stead to do that. And in the Justice, this was nowhere. They hadn't indicated to the House, the House that the business of the E-levy would take place in the House this week. And Justice, when I also use the word political chicanery. Look, they had done a number of things in the run-up to this particular one.
What did they do?
Justice, even me sitting here, Justice, I was given a trip
to where?
Travel outside the country to Tanzania.
I see.
Last Friday, I read to it and said, this is an E-levy trip. It's an attempt to just get as many of you outside the jurisdiction as possible to go and be somewhere, and they'll get the opportunity to pass it. Rightly, there were a number of my colleagues in Parliament who were similarly given places to go, including Mr. Ayefo and some other Honorable Ayefo and some other members. So that's what I thought of political chicanery and the resort to the course to whittle down the numbers of the NDC in Parliament. Thankfully, because of our alertness and our commitment and unbending resolve to make sure that we will oppose this wicked, insensitive E-levy to the very last, none of us took the bait. We didn't swallow the bait. Justice, there have been situations where they have traveled with our members, okay? 2 or 3 of their members versus 2 or 3 of our members. They go and they find a way of bringing their members and leaving our members to be stranded there.
I see.
They could charter jets and others to go and pick their members and leave us. So it tells you the extent to which this government was prepared to go to get this obnoxious, wicked, insensitive levy passed. So that is where we are today. And just as I can tell you without any iota of commitment that we on our side, whatever it will take legally, constitutionally, politically, and whatever legitimately to fight this E-levy to the logical conclusion, we'll do it. So that's why I told you that it is by no means over. But can gloat in the distance that they fast it.
When it comes to forming a quorum, the second quorum to vote on the floor of Parliament, it is your word as minority as against that of the majority. The majority leader was asked by journalists today after they had a press conference, and he said it categorically that there wasn't any problem of forming a quorum because he had a quorum to approve the E-levy.
Justice,
you're also saying that there wasn't a quorum.
If you build your house with saliva, be sure that the next Jew will destroy it.
Right.
You see, a lie is like pregnancy. The more it grows, the more exposed it becomes. Just ask the majority leader a simple question. Was Honorable Adjwasafo in Parliament? Yes or no? Because unlike the other time, when they dressed up somebody to come and parade her to impersonate Honorable Adjosafo instead. And it was clearly exposed by everybody who saw the pictures and others. And I think it is still a subject matter of investigations in Parliament. Because that is a criminal act. Okay? So this time they are aware that all eyes were there. They couldn't parade anybody. So Honorable Adjosafo clearly was not in the chamber. 2, my very good colleague that I talked to you about,
right,
Honorable Kum. I feel very sorry to be talking about this. To all intents and purposes, was not in the chamber. They must have. We heard, and some people said they saw this thing, that they saw that he had been brought in the ambulance and others and all those things. But the vote is actually taken in the chamber. You didn't see him in the chamber. So there are issues that talks clearly to their numbers, the inadequacy of their numbers to take the decision as stipulated by Article 1(4) of the Constitution of this Republic. Clear and unmistaken.
So they were supposed to have 138 people
138 to take the decision. And Justice,
unfortunately,
it was not only that. Because you see, this is a bill. Right. Take note, and let me explain. Listen,
I mean, that's very important.
This is a bill. A bill goes through a number of stages to become law. First reading, second reading, consideration stage, third reading, before it is given the assent by the president, before it becomes law.
Right.
All the stages that are first reading, you read it for the first, and that has gone. But the second reading of the bill, more importantly, Justice, the consideration stage, which is the important, one of the most important parts of the bill.
Right.
And then the third reading, after which Mr. Speaker will put the question. As many as are in support of the further passage of the bill, say aye. Okay? Those against, say no.
Right.
So, at the time that Mr. Speaker will put this question, they did not have 138. So, let us assume when they came to the third reading, and Mr. Speaker was putting the question, how many members did they have? Did they have the full complement of the 138? That is a constitutional threshold. Justice, you remember, the Supreme Court more or less indirectly nullified what we had done in the rejection of the budget.
Right.
When they stated that we didn't have the 138 members
so
to do that business. That's what they said. Even though we said that that day 274 members of parliament were present on the floor. Okay? So, if the Supreme Court said that 137 was not good enough to take that decision, today it could even be 137 or even 136. So they are falling completely flat in the taking of that decision. But you see, the MPP government has a philosophy, it's a Machiavellian philosophy, and thinking that the mindset that they have, that is the end that justifies the means. Do it through the illegal and wrong methods. We'll find a way of cleansing it. So give me the result. How you get the results doesn't matter. If you use illegitimate means to get the results, get it. So even in national elections, they can go and do all the takashi, do all the this, do all the illegal things, even steal clearly and get it. Give me the results. I will know how to defend it. That is the same things that they are doing today.
Initially, people thought that the minority was in a cahoot, sort of, with the majority, because they didn't understand the reason why you had to walk out, because Honorable Adjosafo is not around.
Yes.
And so if you had 137 MPs, and they also have 137 MPs, it means that when you vote,
I just indicated to you how Honorable Judge's issue had come up. And they had enabled us from getting access to him and even having him to add to our numbers to do it. And I've told you that consistently, this has been the tactic the MPP has used to try and whittle down the numbers of the NDC so that they could get the opportunity to pass the E-levy.
Right.
So that's why I tried to take you over to that one to explain, so that members of the public can understand.
So did
so by no means was our resolve in rejecting the E-levy weakened. So far from that.
Did you walk out because Honorable Jachikwesin wasn't in Parliament at the time, or you walked out because you thought that, well, once you walked out, they didn't even have the numbers to form
just so you know that today Parliament even rose earlier because of the thing. So at the time that all these things were happening in Parliament, Honorable Jachi was not on the floor.
Okay.
He was not there. And Justice, you also know, I'm sure in anything that you do, you seek legal advice.
That's true.
And the lawyers seem to indicate that once the Cape Coast High Court ruling has not been vacated by a superior court, okay, which meant that by their implication, until you file for successfully file to stop the execution of the judgment, and then also get the decision set aside, you run the risk of falling into contempt with the court.
Right.
So you had all these things playing out, Justice, and that is why what held him back from the legal participation. And you know that we faced this even from the very first day. Justice, this is not a new matter. We faced this from the very first day we were being sworn in. You remember? When we were going to elect the speaker.
Right.
The same honorable Jachi question, they did everything under the sun to prevent him. And because at that time, there was no court ruling at that time to be used as a reference point. But this time they are making reference to the court ruling, whose decision has not been vacated, and whose decision potentially has legal implications for his participation as a member of our caucus in the decision making of the House. That is where the problem is. And so if you put the thing together, taking out one crucial member of our decision in exercising the vote, they whittle down your vote to 136. So you politically, you have to calculate which of the options are available to you. So there were the two options. You could exercise the option to go for a vote, and you could have gone, and if it's 136, 137, you still have lost the E-levy vote. Our members could not contemplate a situation where we will lose the vote. And that's why I'm saying that it is in commitment to our struggle to make sure that this wicked, obnoxious, insensitive levy is not forced down the unwilling throats of Ghanaians by this wicked and insensitive government. That is what is happening.
People are asking that if indeed they didn't have the numbers to form a quorum in order to take a decision in Parliament, why then did the Speaker of Parliament allow them to go ahead with the approval of the E-levy? What is the procedure? What are the processes in terms of your dealings in Parliament when it comes to issues of this magnitude?
Justice, there are some issues that Mr. Speaker will act on when he's prompted by members on the floor.
You were not there to prompt
for
him
instance,
on this.
to talk about an issue of a quorum. It is a member who must get up and say, Mr. Speaker, he's coming under Order 48.
Right.
Standing Order 48 of the House to ask for quorum. That the House currently doesn't have a quorum and we cannot do business.
Right.
Okay. So some of it may have to do with our properties. Some of the issues, Justice, I cannot talk about it here.
Very well.
About why Mr. Speaker did not do this and that and that. But suffice it to say that some of this must be as a result of the promptings from members on the floor and drawing Mr. Speaker's attention to some of the things for them to do. But, Justice, these are the same people who have treated the Speaker with such levels of contempt, you can't believe it. That even when Mr. Speaker, in the first instance where outside rejected the budget, after Mr. Speaker traveled, what did they do? They purportedly went to this to set aside Mr. Speaker's ruling. When Mr. Speaker had ruled that even that was legal and legitimately done, what happened? So Justice wouldn't have made any difference. Because they are, I've told you, they have this Machiavellian mindset that the end justifies the means. They want the E-levy at any cost. So whatever, any means and all means available that can be used to get them the thing, they don't mind about the legitimacy of those acts. They will make good with them, just giving. And you see, Justice, it speaks volumes about the leadership of this country. Because they said, President Nana Akufo-Addo, today is his birthday, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
On your birthday, no matter how wicked you are, no matter how insensitive you are, on a birthday, you will have some pity, some empathy for suffering masses in your country. I have never seen it anywhere where a president on his birthday will be gloating, celebrating that additional excruciating hardships have been put on his people. With the passage of the E-levy.
Did he do that?
That is what he has done with the passage of the E-levy. He needed it at all costs and asked that they should get it at all costs to coincide with his birthday. This is a birthday present a president should give to his people who are suffering all manner of hardship unprecedented in the annals of this country's history. So it tells you the nature of President Akufo-Addo and the government that is running. That they don't care about Ghanaians. Whatever, if they can milk Ghanaians to the marrow, they will do that. That is what is exemplifying this. Because Ghanaians have spoken in overwhelming numbers that they don't want this wicked, insensitive levy. That it is tantamount to robbery, stealing. That the state is stealing their monies in their pockets. Justice, and you ask yourself, like the debate that ensued in Parliament today, they were asking the government to classify the E-levy. What kind of tax is it? Under what mode of taxation can you classify it? Direct, indirect, property tax. What tax is it? Okay? And this is a tax that bites more the poor. Okay? So that is a very regressive tax. And justice. Why? The government claims that it needs money. Justice, if you need money from any, do you take every money? I have just been asking, if you are hungry, do you jump into the cooking pot?
Not at all.
Notwithstanding your hunger, if you see the thing boiling, will you jump into it?
Not at all.
To feast it while it is still cooking. You will take your time and wait. So it is not all food that you can eat. And it's not even things that you can do on the spur of the moment. Okay? So that is the issue that we are facing today. The Ghanaians are saying that there are more ingenious ways in which we could have even raised justice. The Controller Accountant General, not Controller Accountant, Auditor General, just said that for 2020 alone, justice, 2020 alone, and this is not MMDA's Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies are not included. These are statutory boards and corporations. Justice, for 2020 alone, we lost 12.8 billion Ghana cedis. Okay? Justice, put it together. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. We lost a whooping gargantuan 33.3 billion Ghana cedis under the watch of Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia. So if you have this excessive leakage from the public funds, justice, if you are able to plug the loopholes and put in better financial measures to curb this wasteful expenditure, justice, 33.3 billion. How much is the E-levy projected to bring? Maximum, it was projected to bring 6.8 billion. Maximum. You are leaking in certain cases, justice, in certain cases, over 8 billion Ghana cedis. Just in 1 year. And you allow these monies to go, and you are going to impose this additional hardship on people to remove money from their pockets. Because justice, what is the E-levy? The E-levy is money in an electronic wallet.
Right.
If I put my money in my pocket, is this subject to tax?
Not at all.
Assuming they paid me my salary, and I collected all my salary and put it in my pocket, can the government come and tax that money?
No.
If I decide to go and put it in my bank account, does the government tax my money in my bank account?
No.
So why would the government tax the same money I put in my electronic wallet? That's why we say that's pickpocketing. Justice, if somebody picks your money without your knowledge and your consent, that person is a robber, is a thief. The law will have to take care of him, is that not? But this time it's the state itself which is stealing us. The government itself is now doing to bottom to take monies illegally and unwillingly from the hard-pressed and long-suffering Ghanaians who today are struggling to make ends meet. Abba, justice, they say if you cannot even give your in-law anything, at least don't drop the in-law of the little that she has left. If you have nothing more to assuage the suffering of Ghanaians, you are further going to put your dirty hands in their pockets and take their monies out. You have no fear for God. You have no sympathy for the suffering. Governments are elected and they believe that their mandate is to impose additional suffering on the people while they live extravagant, opulent lifestyles. Can you imagine, justice? When we are talking about the situation where there's no money today, the same cuts that they say they should make, the Office of Government Machinery, headed by the President, has seen an increase from 2021 from 2.5 billion, from 2.6 billion to 3.1 billion. A whooping more than 500 million Ghana cedis increase. Can you fathom that? At a time when all District Assembly Common Fund, they have not gone for 3/4. if you go and ask the GCs, they're a poor shadow of themselves. They don't have, even if they buy granules, they can't pay. So you see what we are going through today.
Right.
And in the face of this hardship, a government will be celebrating for imposing hardship on their people. Him gloating in success that the E-levy has been passed. You're gloating in success that you are imposing additional hardships on your people. Justice, we can never be part of the decision. That is why we will fight to the best of our decision. But justice, let me say it in clear language. A number of Ghanaians may feel disappointed and apprehensive over such.
Right.
But Ghana, justice, this fight over the E-levy is not a fight for the minority in parliament alone. It's not justice to the best of our ability. We have fought it from November to this date, and I can tell you that the commitment to continue to fight it to the very last has not inched one bit. And that is why I just told you that tomorrow, using the legal means and others as a first step, it will be filed in court tomorrow to ask the Supreme Court itself to interpret its own ruling about what it means by getting that number to do the business on the in the house.
Right, I'll come back to you. Viewers, you're still watching Hot News right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah. Keep your messages coming in on our WhatsApp/text line. I'll make a time and read all those out for you. You can as well leave your suggestions, questions, and whatnot on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Pan-African Television. I also read all those out. For those of you watching us on Facebook, can please share the Facebook Live. Please, if you're watching us on Facebook, share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. Once again, if you're watching us on Facebook, please share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. Now, Honorable, you've mentioned the Supreme Court interpreting their own ruling in the recent matter concerning forming a quorum to take decisions in Parliament. But when this ruling came out, you expressed dissatisfaction and disappointment in the Supreme Court over the ruling. The minority, of course, you held a press conference and you spoke vehemently against it. Do you have any trust in the Supreme Court at the now that you are going back to interpret this?
Let us be very clear that we were most disappointed about the decision in respect of ensuring that the first deputy speaker, second deputy speaker, or whoever, whichever member of the House is elected to preside, can vote. Because we thought that is an infringement on the Supreme Court's own ruling. Right. That, you remember the Supreme Court ruled earlier that Parliament is a master of its own procedure. Very well. Of its own rules. So that infringed it. Because among the other things, they threw out. Parliament makes its own standing orders. In fact, the Constitution of Parliament. I'm not talking of the fact that Parliament doesn't obey the national constitution. There's a national constitution, an overarching national constitution. Very well. But there's also the standing orders of the House, which is made to govern and regulate the conduct of business in Parliament. Right. These are the standing orders. And to the extent that Parliament make those standing orders, and the court ruled that standing order 109 should be thrown out. 1093. Yes, 1093. That said that a deputy speaker presiding cannot, because you see, it is born out of even if you look at the practice of the House. Right. Justice, how can you be presiding? I just give the scenario of a referee. Very well. You are a referee in a match. Are you a referee for some minutes of the match or the entire match? The entire match. At a certain point of the match, can the referee transform himself into a player? Is it possible for the referee in the 89th minute to chase the ball, blast it into the net, whistle that is a goal, and ask the other team to go and pass the ball? Not at all. So it is in the wisdom of the decision that when the speaker acts as an umpire, he has a duty to stand above the fray. And we were saying it, justice. Look, when Honorable Joe Osei-Wusu comes to Parliament, today, for instance, he was in Parliament. Nobody even saw Joe Osei-Wusu. People didn't even notice that he was in the chamber. He would just go to sit at his place. Ordinary. Because today, he's Joe Osei-Wusu representing the people of Bekwai. But when he goes and dons the robe, especially when Mr. Speaker has traveled, and that's why I say we have the avoidable absence of the Speaker and the unavoidable absence of the Speaker. So when Mr. Speaker is unavoidably absent from the jurisdiction, he's traveled for a certain purpose, will be away for weeks. So you are now acting as Speaker. You assume all the powers of the Speaker. So for instance, Honorable Joe Osei-Wusu, who done the Speaker's listen, he will be led in the procession with the mace, which is the authority of Parliament, in front of him. Can I walk with the mace as a member of parliament?
Not at all.
Can I walk in a procession? And when it's coming, all of us have to stand up. In fact, in some corners, even when they say Mr. Speaker is coming, you will stand like an Egyptian mummy. You can't move again. If you are going somewhere, you have to stop until Mr. Speaker passes. Have you seen the power? So when Joe Sewusu is transformed, some even say transmogrified, from Joe Sewusu to Speaker, you see what a colossus he is. Then he comes in. All of us get up upon his entry. When Joe Sewusu comes as member of Parliament for Bekwai, even if I'm sitting on a seat, he may not even come and tell me to. He may find some place to sit down, and in the hope that I will see that he has come and I'll wake up for him. Okay? Then he goes to occupy the speaker's chair. We all stand up. He leads the house in prayers. He can determine, as long as he remains speaker, that you will never speak on the floor of the house. So because you have to catch the eye of Mr. Speaker in order to be allowed to speak, to make any contribution on the floor. So if he decides that you will speak, you will speak. Look at the power that he has. So he exercises all these powers, and you see that he must come and vote. And just look at the funny aspect of it. When Mr. Speaker puts the question, okay, he's seated like I'm seated here,
right,
and then the members are on the floor here.
Very well.
To say that at the conclusion of the debate, as many as are in favor of this motion say aye. He's addressing the people. He himself doesn't say aye. So if he doesn't say aye, and there's a contention, there's a controversy, and they are going to count the votes of those who say aye and no,
why then should he be?
He didn't say aye. How can they count him among the ayes? Because we are supposed to count those who said aye.
Right.
Mr. Speaker did not say aye. How are you now going to count him as part? So you see the impracticability of some of those rulings. So that's what we're criticizing and talking about. That it was a constitutional overreach. The Supreme Court did not have the power to do what it did. And I've said it. While the Supreme Court has the authority to interpret the Constitution, it doesn't have the right to misinterpret the Constitution. It doesn't.
You think that they misinterpreted the
Sure.
Constitution?
Many people saw it as that aspect as a travesty of justice. So clearly, justice, that one is clear. We made it clear. But issues of the quorum and others, that one is clear. About the 138 to do business.
Right.
It's clear. It is a constitutional provision and Article 104. And it's clear. Because it says half. And half, you cannot get 137.5. So that's 138. And that has constitutionally been taken. And in fact, in the practice of the House, this is what has reigned.
No, apart from you heading to Supreme Court, I'm talking about the minority, heading to the Supreme Court for interpretation on its own ruling and all of that. What other decisions have you taken? People are of the view that this time around the minority in Parliament is going to be vigilant. Whatever the government will bring to Parliament for approval is going to be subjected to voting, and where their members are not in Parliament, they're going to be punished. Is that how the situation is going to look like?
Justice, I'm sure you can see in the preceding week, a number of loan agreements were jettisoned.
Right.
I'm sure you can bear witness to that. Where not only did we subject it to vote, but some of it which lack quorum, we aborted the business of the House. And loan agreements and others that the government business side of the House was bringing were stopped. And so I can tell you without any iota of doubt that this Parliament is committed to exercising the greatest degree of oversight.
Okay.
Especially in the light of these developments. That we will not allow anything that is not in the supreme interest and aspirations of our people to go. And we will continue to exercise that vigilance. That by no means is saying that we are going to obstruct any government business. But we are going to make sure that the right and property, which is in the supreme interest of our people, will be done. And I'm saying that this government is cutting its nose to spite its face. Because from now onwards, just as I can assure you, many other things that will require them to get the 138 will be there. They can't get it. We are here.
Tomorrow, the president is in Parliament to present State of the Nation address. Will the minority be there?
That is the decision for my leadership. So far, leadership has not met to take that decision. Maybe we'll meet tomorrow morning for leadership to take that decision. And I believe that if leadership in its wisdom thinks we must stay or we must not attend it, so be it. We shall go along with what leadership decides. But I can tell you that even before the president, who has run away from this same state of nation, it says that should have been done even earlier. I'm sure you've seen the number of times this has been postponed.
Right.
Why will the president postpone a State of the Nation address when he can speak about the state of that nation? You see, he was waiting for E-levy to be passed for him to do the State of the Nation address. Is that not shameful? That you are going to gloat on the success of imposing excruciating hardships on your people as a basis upon which you paint a state of the nation. So after imposing the hardship on the people, what picture are you going to paint of the state of the nation? That your people are suffering, you have come and added more suffering to them. He's going to admit that tomorrow. It's shameful.
Right.
Justice. And the state of the nation that you will paint tomorrow, Ghanaians have already passed their verdict. It's a very sorry, depreciating, excruciating hardship of a people who today have lost hope. They have lost hope in all this government. Justice, today, the cost of living now, you can't even calculate it. Justice, you go and buy goods today, if you go back in a day or two, the prices have changed. The value of the cedi now is now getting to junk. Okay? Just the latter part of this year, from 6 point something, the cedi is now 8 point something. Justice, fuel prices have hit the roof.
Very well.
Today, and I'm sure you listened to the mockery the finance minister made of Ghanaians.
Very well.
Justice, when he went, let me just show you. Out of
so I kindly give in some 5 minutes.
Yes,
wrap up.
Justice, because this is important.
Right.
People's lives are ruined. Justice, when you touch fuel, everything is off.
I see.
And that is why I've said everything in this country has gone up, except somebody's height.
Whose height?
Justice, my helpmate, I'm also in that category.
Very well.
Justice,
well, please allow me.
No, Justice, listen to this.
I'll wrap up.
Listen to this. When the finance minister made his infamous press conference and sought to address the issue of fuel prices, for which Ghanaians were eagerly listening to see whether they would get a glimmer of hope.
Right.
He shattered the hopes of Ghanaians by only reducing it by 15 pesos. 15 pesos, so Justice, you increase fuel prices in cedis and reduce them by 40 pesos. Justice, do you know where he took the 15 pesos from?
No.
And let me read this to you. About 42% or so of the petroleum price build-up is made up of fuel taxes. Now you have the operators in that industry who are subsisting on what we call generally margins.
Right.
So where the finance minister went and took all the 15% justice from the margins. It didn't touch one from government taxes. And I'll read the taxes to you.
Okay.
The boss margin, which is for the people who are operating in the bill, they took 2 pesos from it. UPPF, they took 9 pesos. That's 11 pesos. Justice, the fuel marking, they took 1 peso. That's 12. Primary distribution margin, they took 3 pesos. So if you add it, that's 15 pesos. Just now look at the gamut of government taxes, which are top heavy and loaded. Because some of them, you have some of them 49 pesos per liter.
Right.
Just at 49 pesos per liter, you are talking about almost 50. You are talking about almost times 4.5. You are talking about almost 2.5 Ghana cedis per gallon.
Right.
Okay. Now look at the energy debt recovery levy. It's 49 pesos per liter for diesel and petrol. 41 pesos for LPG per kilo. 49 pesos per liter. Justice, he didn't touch 1 peso from there. Road fund levy, 48 pesos. That is petrol and diesel.
Right.
He didn't touch 1 peso from it. Okay. Price stabilization and recovery levy, 16 pesos. Justice, he didn't touch 1 peso. Okay. Energy fund levy, this 1 peso.
Right.
So that one you can excuse because you couldn't touch it. Sanitation and pollution levy, justice, 10 pesos per liter for petrol and diesel. He didn't touch 1 peso. Energy sector recovery levy, justice, 20 pesos per liter. He didn't touch it.
Yeah.
Justice, special petroleum tax, 46 pesos per liter. He didn't touch one. Is this not what more evidence of an insensitive and wicked government can we look at more than doing something like this?
Right.
When you simply, the common logic even elsewhere across the world is to ameliorate the suffering of the people, to take some of those, absorb some of those taxes, take them out to bring down the level of the petroleum price build-up. so that the price will be at least more manageable for people. Today, look at the level of suffering. And in the face of this, a president on his birthday is gloating over the sources that he has imposed additional hardship on the people and is celebrating. Allah Almighty save this country.
Allah Almighty save this country. Finally, you're heading to court. Should the decision doesn't go in your favor, what will be the next line of action on this E-levy?
I said, by no means is it a one-pronged approach. I said that a variety of means.
Yes.
Political, social, legal, constitutional, whatever method that you will continue to use to drum home this point.
Right.
That this is a wicked, insensitive levy that under no circumstance must be imposed on the people, especially in these times. We'll continue. By no means. So, Justice, our resolve to fight the E-levy is by no means weakened by what has happened. By no means. And though this is just the first leg, Justice, we shall. And that is why I call on all Ghanaians,
right,
to see this fight as not a fight belonging to the NDC group in Parliament alone. Because, Justice, to be very honest and fair, they say if a man has no drum, he beats his chest. I'm not about to beat my chest and say that from November we have fought it all the way to March, and I've shown that commitment.
Very
but I'm saying that it's a continual fight for all Ghanaians. Because it is our own pockets that they are going to pilfer. They are going to loot our own pockets and forcibly take out these monies. And I'm sure that Ghanaians will see that this is a fight that is for all of us.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for coming. I'm so grateful for your time. This whole time will last on the program. But certainly, as I said here, I would never want to pay an E-levy. Of course, there are so many other ways I'm paying that, and I would never want to pay that. But probably, or definitely, a government that doesn't really listen to the plight of its people would want to visit excruciating hardship on them by introducing this, E-levy of a thing. Let's see how things go.
Just sometimes they say that they listen. Unfortunately, when they even listen, they don't hear.
Well,
you say you are listening, but you don't hear what
that's
the person
true.
say.
Of course,
and even when they say they listen and hear, they don't act.
Right.
They act in the negative direction.
Right. You don't expect me to send 200 cedis to my mother in the village and expect me to pay some 1.5% on that when the telcos are also going to be deducting me some 1% and all of that. Unfortunately, this is one that is uncalled for, and Ghanaians must actually rise up to make sure that we demand from government, why we voted them to be at where they are, not to make policies that would not be favorable to us. That is my piece. My name is Justice Appiah, and the show has been Hot News. Goodbye.